Hey guys, so today we're gonna do something very similar I did with my Ayaka breakdown. This time, we're gonna do a combat breakdown of Nilou in Genshin Impact. Now besides Ayaka, she's one of my favorites too, and I'm happy to tell you that her rerun is currently available, so you can go ahead and wish for her. And so, let's not waste any time and start with her normal attack. Nilou's normal attack can combo up to 3 strikes. She starts with an upper horizontal, slightly diagonal slash. She then lowers her body and stands and putting her hands in front of her and does another diagonal slash. She then twists her body and her left hand in front of her before she does a quick twirl around and does another horizontal slash. Her charge attack has her putting her sword in front of her before she turns and crouches down. She releases 3 slashes with 2 being diagonal and 1 being horizontal. It's quite weird because she's only doing a single slash but able to generate 3. Now, the super complicated elemental skill. After pressing her elemental skill, Nilou then forms a pose with her left arm in the air and her right in front of her. Hydro energy surrounds her as petals flies along with it. Nilou enters the Bio-Roxas state, indicated by the little mark above her head. At this stance, you can either tap on the normal attack to trigger what is called Sword Dance, or you can tap on the elemental skill to trigger Whirling Steps. And on the third attack, if you trigger Sword Dance, she becomes a main Hydro DPS with an elemental conversion, dealing all her normals into Hydro. But if you end it with a Whirling Step, she summons the Hydro Ring, making enemies sweat around her. I know sounds really stupidly complicated, but let's break down the Sword Dance first. Her first and second Sword Dance state has pretty much the same animation as her normal attack, with the addition that her damage is now Hydro and she creates waves around the blade. But the third one is a bit different. Nilou twists her body with her blade being held close to her. She then slides below before extending her left feet. She uses it as a foothold to fun exposing herself and does a giant vertical wave slash. The wave itself travels further, leaving behind a purple light, petals, and particles of light. She then can continue doing this dance state before the duration ends, ultimately making her a Hydro DPS. Her Whirling Step starts off with her spinning her sword and does a horizontal Hydro slash. The next step has her jumping with her sword behind her as she does a bigger diagonal Hydro slash. Her third step has her practically jumping even higher as she twirls in the air with her sword behind her before she slashes down and does an even bigger diagonal Hydro slash. She then lands on her feet and does a small twirl before summoning a Hydro ring around her. The ring itself floats with her active character and has small bubbles, a ray of light, and petals floating around. And if you are on the ground, you can see a small detail in the form of a small flower below her. Her Hydro ring lasted a bit longer than her DPS stance. And finally, after activating her third Sword Dance or Whirling Steps, and if your party member is only Hydro and Dendro, she gains the passive where she finally able to transform normal Dendro cores into Bountiful cores, which has bigger AoE, bigger damage, and explodes instantly. This is basically her entire kit and what makes her so valuable. Her second Ascension passive allows the cores to deal even more damage based on Nilou's max HP above 30,000. Anyway, let's move on to her burst. Nilou started off by extending her hands as the water petals below her starts to form. Particles of light and flower petals can also be seen around the water petal. Mist of water then begins circling her as the water petal grew larger, along with a rainbow effect that can be seen around here. Nilou then puts both of her hands above her as flower petals flies out beneath her and the water petal grew larger and surrounds her. Nilou then forms an X with both of her hands as particles covered her. She then opens her eyes with a shiny effect before she opens her arms as the water petals exploded. A wave around the petals expanded? Before the water petal exploded along with the wave around her as petals, rainbow, particles of light, and bubbles can be seen around the blast. The petal then slowly disappeared and a purple effect can be seen beneath her. Enemies that got damaged by her burst has a marking. It then slowly fades out before it exploded. Once the duration ends, the mark exploded and petals along with a certain pattern of what it seems to be a flower can be seen. Her idle animations are both adorable though. The first one starts off with her pulling a Tashin out accompanied by particles of light. Nilou then takes a bite and her face lights up with particles surrounds her as she savored the tashine before the tashine shrinks magically and disappeared. Yeah, I don't get Genshin logic at all. The second idol animation has her dancing. It starts off with her moving both of her arms closer to her face and then extending it before she twirls around with it and her right hand closer to her face. She then brings her arms down while moving it up again diagonally, and then finishes with moving her left arm downwards in a diagonal movement. Blue particles can also be seen around her as she dances. And that is all I have for Nilou. This character is perhaps my favorite comfort character besides Ayaka. Her personality is adorable, she is very elegant, and she is, perhaps for me, is just a cuter version of Ayaka. While a lot of people seem to say that Nilou is just a bad character, I guess that's just because of her restricted playstyle. Personally, I think she's super fun and allows me to just watch those enemies die quickly. I have never cleared a Spiral Abyss quicker than using Nilou Bloom. Her animations, while some are underwhelming like her normal attack, her skill, and her burst makes up for it. I've never seen something so beautiful out of a Hydro character, and this is perhaps one of the best animations out of all the Genshin characters, not just Hydro. Anyways, thanks for watching. I have a lot of cool upcoming videos soon, so hopefully I can give out my best for the content I have planned this year. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.